I did the trip with Rob and Naomi James. Rob was a very well-known whitbread round the world sailor, and Naomi James was the first woman to sail single-handed round the world. I remember Naomi putting her head up and saying, you know, just to let you know, there's a 90% chance that we'll get knocked down. And I said,
so you actually did quite an exciting thing, didn't you, in your late teens, early 20s?
I was 21. It was shortly after my father died. And I decided I wanted to get back at the sea for taking him away from me. So yeah, I decided to go across the Atlantic, which was probably a bit daft on reflection.
How did that come about?
Well, it was a bit strange really. I was working on Guernsey for a firm of insurance brokers, and on my weekend off I was just kind of walking around the harbour, saw this really extraordinary bright yellow trimaran called Boatfile, and it looked like a really whizzy racing machine, and I was just staring at it basically, and this guy comes along and says, "Oh, do you like my boat?" And I said, "Oh, it's yours." And I said that my dad had a catamaran and blah blah blah, and he was doing the Observer single-handed transatlantic race, what they called the O-Star. And I said, "Oh wow, that's exciting, you know, how do you get the boats back?" And he said, "We sell them, do you want to come?" So, oh, actually that sounds like a really good idea. So it was quite windy, I didn't have a handbag or paper or pen or anything like that, and there was a bit of fish and chip paper blowing along the harbour. I did have a lipstick in my pocket though, so picked up the fish and chip paper, put my name and telephone number on, and said I'm definitely up for it. So that was the start of a rather interesting adventure.
And you sailed from
Newport Rhode Island to Cowes, yeah, which is, and it was, he said be in Newport Rhode Island on July the 8th with your kit bag, and he gave me a whole list of kit that I had had. But on reflection, it's not the best crossing, and it wasn't the best time of year. But you know, there were lots of boats in Newport Rhode Island, having done the O-Star race. So I met some of the most famous, in those days, the most famous yachtsmen in the world, really. So I was kind of lucky.
And how did you feel before you set off?
Nervous. There was a kind of build-up because you're getting all of the food on board and you're making preparations to go. And I think I kept thinking, I must have one last shower. I know that sounds silly, but you just think, I just want one last civilised shower and everything before this long trip.
And then you set off.
Yes, set off. It was quite interesting because I did the trip with Rob and Naomi James. Rob was a very well-known whitbread round the world sailor, and Naomi James was the first woman to sail single-handed round the world. And she suffered from seasickness. So as we left, it was most peculiar because she was on the aft deck, and she said, "I have to do something to concentrate so I'm not sick." And so she started shaving her legs, which I thought was really odd, with, you know, effectively a whole bunch of strangers. A really strange start to the trip, to be honest. Yeah.
You must have wondered what you were in for.
Well, I did actually. I really did. And I thought, okay, maybe this is her way of just making us all feel at home, that we've got to get used to being in each other's company on a confined space, and this is what happens, you know, we've all got to use the bathroom, we've all got to, you know, muck in basically, yeah.
You must have all got to know each other quite well.
Yes, it was an interesting combination because there was another famous lady on board, Laurel Holland, who was the wife of a very famous yacht designer, Ron Holland. And she was vegetarian, Naomi was vegetarian, then there was a 16-year-old schoolboy and an 18-year-old ski instructor. So, and then there was me. So it was quite an interesting combination.
Yeah. So was it an easy crossing?
Well, the first few days we got into the Gulf Stream, and that was really interesting because we had flying fish come over the deck and everything, and I'd never seen one before, so that was amazing. Then we had a wave of squid break on a boat, and that wasn't so amazing because they squirted ink all over the deck and the smell was just foul. There was another, the following day, we saw 3 humpback whales, and it was like mum and dad and a baby. But the interesting thing was that you only saw a fraction of their actual size, and the tops of them were covered in barnacles. So they weren't actually beautiful from that point of view. But Rob James said, you know, you hit one of those and, you know, you can hold your boat. They were gracious in their way. So you know, when we were in the Gulf Stream, that was nice.
Yeah. And did you have any exciting weather?
Major weather. I'm not sure whether you're allowed to use certain words on camera.
Oh, absolutely, you are. Yeah.
I was on watch one time, and Rob came up and he looked and he said, "You see that?" He says that's got over 50 knots of wind in it, and we really have to be prepared for this. So I was thinking, okay, so what do we do now, sort of thing. And it was a case of just preparing all hands organised and properly equipped, and making sure you were strapped on and all of that.
And what was it like?
It was very frightening. Very frightening. To be fair, you know, 1,500 miles from any point of land. We had 3 or 4 sea anchors out. We dropped all of the sails, so we were bare poles for 3 days during the storm. We had massive walls. I mean, it was just walls of water, you know, 50 foot, just pooping over the stern. And we had a leak in the stern gland, and we also had a problem with the whitlock steering. You had to spin it 180 degrees before you got any reaction at all. So you're sort of surfing down the waves, but your concern is that you don't want to catch the next one, because then you could pitch pole. And I think it's fair to say, although you tried to have some control, you weren't really in control. This was a 53-foot yacht, but it felt like a tiny little dinghy.
And how long did that last?
Well, three days bare poles. The seas went then onto the beam, and it was a very big steering wheel that I had between my legs, and I wanted my back to. I didn't really want to look at the, you know, size of the waves. I remember Naomi putting her head up and saying, you know, just to let you know, there's a 90% chance that we'll get knocked down. And I said, oh golly, you know, what course do you want me to steer? I didn't really know what to expect. She said, oh no, it's not a course, it's just, you know, you just have to be prepared that we might get knocked down, in which case we'll come up again. But if we do a complete roll, then, you know, you're actually in the best place, you're strapped on, and we should come back up again. But fortunately that didn't happen.
How did you feel when she said that to you?
Well, actually, I felt incredibly peaceful. I thought, okay, if this is it, if this is the time, then that's fine. I'm doing what I really love. And it was a bit scary at first, but you then have a resolve, because no one can come and rescue you. It's you and the elements. So you just think, okay, that's it.
And then it calmed down.
It did calm down, but the seas were still incredibly lumpy, but we could get the sails back up. But there was a big rip in the mainsail, and so myself and I think it was Laurel actually, we spent ages hand stitching it with a sailor's palm, which was good. And I was reading Watership Down at the time, so every time I wanted to, you know, if I was on Golden Kip, not on call or whatever, I would read and escape with the rabbits in Watership Down, which helped a lot, yeah.
Golden Kip, I hadn't heard that expression before.
Oh, right. So you'd have your watch duties, which would be up on deck. So you'd have 4 hours on, 4 hours golden kip, and 4 hours standby. And standby is potentially all hands on deck shout. So your golden kip, when you finally get down below, you think, oh, brilliant. But they had a lot of leaks in the boat, so I was actually sleeping in a black garbage sack. Yeah, and I kept thinking, why am I doing this? Beam me up, Scotty. Beam me up, Scotty.
You weren't in the lap of luxury at all.
No, not at all. Well, also the head broke, so 6 of us were having to bucket and chuck it, which wasn't a very happy picture.
And there was a water situation as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, because of the leak in the stern gland, it contaminated the freshwater tank. So we were reduced to half a cup of fresh water a day for everything. It was very, very strict. The routine was very strict. We had apple days, we had orange days. If someone took an apple on an orange day, then everyone got really uptight. It's not fair. And it sounds petty, but when you're in that situation, it's incredibly, it's really important that you stick to the rules and you have your cooking detail, your cleaning detail, all of that. So your golden kip, you didn't have to do anything, but then when you had your 4 hours standby, you might be having to prepare a meal for 6 people, 2 of whom were vegetarians, so you had to do 2 different meals. So it was quite hard. Yeah.
It sounds it. And how long did the passage take altogether?
We did 3,200 miles, nautical miles, and it took just over 3 weeks. Yeah. And we arrived in Cowes during Cowes Week. And as we approached land, you could actually smell it way before you saw it. And Naomi had been a hairdresser before she'd become a sailor. So she said, right, everybody going to cut your hair and make you all look smart. And Rob said, right, let's get the fenders out, scrub them all down. And by the time we got into Cowes, it looked as though we'd been for an afternoon sail. It really did. And of course, because they were majorly famous, all the paparazzi were there to meet them and everything else, and the rest of us kept our heads down, and so it was quite interesting from that point of view.
And what happened when you got off the boat?
I fell over. I literally just splat, and I hadn't been drinking or anything. I just didn't have my land legs, so I just fell over. Which was a bit embarrassing, I have to say. But yeah, it took a while actually to get land legs back after that long. Yeah.
Did that trip change the way that you felt about sailing?
Not really. It was an amazing experience, both from the sailing point of view, facing your own mortality. It served me well, actually. I'm really pleased that I had that experience at that age, because I've considered every single day a major bonus, and it's taught me to value every day and value every person that I spend time with, because you never know what's around the corner.
So that's obviously an epic trip. In comparison, our planned jaunt over to Sicily must have seemed quite tame.
Never that. I've never ever thought of any passage to potentially be tame, because you never know what the wind is going to do. So you prepare for everything. I mean, some people might look at a forecast and think, oh, that looks very benign, oh, easy peasy. That's when you end up in trouble. You have to have an immense respect for the sea, because it can change in an instant, which of course we've heard about just chatting to some of the people, since we've been tied up here.